Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and today I am so jazzed. I have one of my dearest friends, and I don't mean that like as a podcast intro. Like, truly, this person is someone that I just count as one of my greatest friends, and I'm so excited to welcome Josh Scott, CEO, founder, Studio EightyEight Marketing. They have the best swag. I was just telling Josh, I wore their sweatshirt all summer long. I am a terrible ambassador. I don't take pictures and post, but I love your swag. So, Josh, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hey, I'm great. It's always good to be here. I was looking forward to this all week when I see it show up on my calendar. And yeah, I don't know that I believe you, Kiera. You say you wear the flag, but never seen proof of it. So we can talk like that on a podcast, but just saying, I've never seen it.
I should stop this podcast right now and run upstairs and go grab it. So then we have all the social proof, which I think I'm going to do. So we're just going to hit stop. All right, Josh. So like I said, we were going to hit stop and for the world to see.
All right. It exists. It exists. All right.
I love this sweatshirt so much, truly. And I love you guys so much. But your swag this year was my favorite swag of all because this sweatshirt just feels like a nice hug. And I appreciate that it's your company, but it doesn't feel like I'm just wearing swag. Like 88, you've got the nice sports attire to it.
Yeah.
So it felt good that I wasn't Studio EightyEight. I need to work on our Dental A team because I'm when I send you swag, it's be Dental A team today. You guys did a good job of letting me still be a human, but also that. So it does exist. I hope that my marketing team takes this, crops it. It's on here. We'll tag you. We're going to use this clip for the next 3 years.
All right.
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, it's fun. Our team, So for example, with swag, it's we try to give people stuff that they would actually wear. So it's not just blatant, you look like a team member of ours when you're wearing our stuff because you're just all 88 out. But, and they have a theme every year. So this year was this whole athletic company kind of vibe, which was a ton of fun. Next year, we're already in concepts for, we do it in Q1 every year. So we're already in concepts. So it's this whole camping, kind of modern camping theme. It's kind of fun. They're all geeked out about the videos they're going to shoot around it. We're looking at little tin mugs and things like that. And so it's fun, but I always encourage, this is a good segue because I encourage dental practices, when they do swag, sometimes it's just their logo really big on the shirt or the hat or whatever. It's nobody wants to wear a hat that says XYZ dental, but dentistry is so easy. I'm if you just put get a trucker hat, put smile on the front of it, put your logo on the back, smile more, smile bigger, let's all smile. All that message is so awesome to wear out in the world. And people love that. I've got this one sweatshirt from a dental practice. It says smile more on the back. And what's funny is when I wear it, it's a really cool hoodie. When I wear it, people talk to me. They're yeah, I love that. Yeah, the world needs to smile more. And sometimes when I'm traveling, I'm pretty introverted. And I had this on one time. It was 8 people kept talking to me. And I was okay, I remember to never wear this again when I'm traveling because it actually creates conversation and I'm trying to check out from it. So, yeah.
I love it. And I think good call to that because it can be so easy. And that's what I actually love about you guys with your marketing is so very intentional. And I think dental practices can have it be very intentional, but it's very easy and it's fun. And I think you guys make it fun. And that's actually why I love you guys as marketing people that I recommend. You guys do so many great things, your rebrands, your websites, your marketing. So Josh, we were talking before about how there's kind of these 2 parts to marketing that practices have really struggled with up until now within marketing. So let's kind of just do some chit chat on marketing. We'll probably morph into CEO. I don't even know where we're going to go today, but we're just going to have a good time because when Josh and I podcast, since the first podcast we ever did together, it's been a comical, comedy show, either pre, post, or in the middle. And I think that's why we both love to podcast.
Yeah. Awesome. No, I think in dentistry, what's really interesting is up until this point, historically from a dental marketing standpoint, if we go 10 years ago, when digital started to come around, everybody got real focused on what we call the marketing services. So SEO, digital ads, some social media. And dental marketing companies on the whole have been really bad at what they've put out. And so they almost kind of do this, what's this minimum viable product we can put out at a recurring retainer rate, $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $250, whatever, and just do enough to get by. Lots of stock content. How can we replicate it? How can we scale it? Do it at an MVP and just get it done and collect revenue. And so that was the state of dental marketing for a while. When we came around, I kind of had this different vision of, it felt like nobody was doing creative work. So I kind of came in with this whole creative agency approach of, let's make beautiful brands and websites and photography and video. Because I felt like, all things being equal, if you're just looking at a bunch of stock websites, the first one that's kind of waves their hand and says, hey, we're different, look at us, is just going to win. Like the Gary Vee says, the creative is the variable. And I've always believed that. But now, so then it kind of led us to this point where people were having to choose. And they would say like, okay, like our competitors, their biggest knock against us was, okay, beautiful websites. Like they would actually concede that, like, beautiful websites, but they're not going to score good on Google. If you come with us, they're going to score better on Google. And so we almost had this war of, okay, you can speak to humans and do something that's designed really well, but Google doesn't like it. Or you do something that Google's going to score well, but like it just is not connecting with humans. And so maybe we get a lot of traffic to it, but we're not converting at a high rate. And so it just becomes this kind of cycle. And what we've been able to do the last couple of years is I really challenged that belief within our agency and just said, like, guys, can we do something that's still going to connect with humans? Like, you're still going to feel something, but can we also build amazing SEO into it? Can we build amazing ad strategies that get that same traffic, but now they're going to convert higher? And so for me, it almost became this like custom story-driven creative meets performance marketing. And that's really like the most ideal growth strategy out there. And so we spent the last 2 years really, I mean, we've hired SEO specialists, ad specialists. I honestly think right now, man, our 2 SEO specialists, I would probably put them up against any dental marketing SEO in the country at this point.
Amazing.
And it's kind of led us in this whole reorganization because now our marketing services are starting to take off. And internally, we're trying to actually marry that too. Like, okay, we've got a creative agency on one side and a performance marketing agency on the other. And it's, you know, it starts breaking stuff. And then you're like, okay, these systems don't work. And so that's been a ton of fun. Fun is
a ton of fun, like air quotes. I think
a ton of fun.
The CEO fun, right? Like, oh, it's so
right.
fun.
I know. And this is what happens. It's like you, as a company, as a business, you find a better way to serve clients. And you're like, yes, let's do that. And you get a year or so into it and you're like, oh, this is like breaking a lot of stuff that we have to now go back and rebuild. This is the fun when they're like, hey, start your own business, you have freedom. And, you know, all stuff. Then you get into it and you're like, oh, this is a lot of work and energy. But we're having a ton of fun with it. And I think that that's really where so kind of a history of dental marketing and where it's at today is I think being able to bring both of those together, like this best of both worlds. If we're talking about growing a practice, it's custom creative storytelling content with performance marketing. Man, if you can put those together, like you can grow a practice.
Mm-hmm. And I think something I really love about you guys is I think as dentists who are a bit more introvert, like you say, you're introverted traveling. I think they feel very similar that way too. And it's like, oh my gosh, but I have to now be all online, or in order for me to have this, I have to be this like very bubbly, like, I mean, there's some amazing doctors out there that have actually done it, but I really love that you guys don't make them be anything that they're not. And that's like your whole premise of what you guys do for marketing is like, no, you be authentic to you. So if you're outgoing and extroverted, like let's do that and let's build your marketing message around that. But if you're more introverted and more like you want to keep that close to you, that's also fine. And so really just giving people the playground of be who you want to be and tell your story the way you want to tell it and run your practice the way you want to. And you're ultimately going to attract patients who jive with that. Like you don't have to be a one size fits all to be successful. And that's something I've just always loved about your guys' style, your approach, and the way you operate.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest, pushback we get when we talk to potential clients. And to be honest, I would imagine people don't reach out to us because of this as well, but they're like, Josh, I don't really have a story, or I don't know what my story is, or I saw these clients that you showed in this speech, but like, I'm not them, because sometimes we tend to show the more sexy work, the work that we're really proud of. And people are like, yeah, but that's a brand new startup and that space looks amazing. And my space just does not look like that. And so there's this barrier to it. And what I would say is there's a couple things. Is number one, like everybody has a story, and that's part of our job and our discovery is to really pull that out, with questions like, why did you even go into dentistry? Like, why choose this profession? Why this location? Why this path of CE, that you've decided to commit to? Those types of things really help us put together, okay, here's the why behind it. The other part of it is it doesn't have to be entirely like your personal story either. It's really more the story of the practice. And some people are real okay with those intertwining and it like kind of meshing into the gray. And then some people are like, nope, they compartmentalize it. Here's my business. Here's my personal life. They are completely separate. And so like, I get that too. And I'm like, well, then the storyline becomes the practice. Like, why is this practice here? Why should patients choose you? Why is your team better? If given the choice of any practice in the community, you say patients should come here first. Why? Like, let's explore some of that. So it's a little intimidating to approach it. And I mean, Kiera, doctors right now, I mean, with video, it's nobody likes being on video and watching themselves.
Sure.
And so that's also, they're like, so I need video. I'm like, well, your site's going to perform way better with video. Like, okay, I'm trusting. I'm like, trust me, our team's going to be great. It's going to be interview style. You're really going to feel at ease, but it's another big hurdle to overcome sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And I just have to say, like, as someone, I mean, I had to learn video pretty early on in my career of dental aid team. And I remember there was a company called Thrive, and we hired a marketing company. I spent $80,000 in 3 months with zero ROI. And I made probably, I kid you not, 200 videos. Like, I literally pulled our operations manual. I should have the team pull some of these videos from the archive for you. Like, there's one where I bite into cake, and I ate so much frosting that it actually hit my uvula and I started gagging. But I was so committed to finishing this video, not redoing it, that I and then I am crying and laughing and keep going, like in mid commercial. Another one, I'm pulling the operations manual out of the oven as like a turkey dinner. Like, I'm dressed like the amount of video nonsense that I did was ridiculous. But I think it was really great because it taught me like nothing's perfect. And I think even now you don't have to be perfect to get this. But what I love is I actually use you guys. So if you go onto Dental Aid Team's website, I always say, if you want to feel like $1,000,000, like even better than going to the spa or getting your hair done or anything like that, like men, I don't know what you guys do to feel like posh and luxurious. Like, maybe it's like getting a like well-tailored suit. Like, Josh, what is it for men? Like, for girls, it's like we go get our hair done, we get our lashes done, we get a makeover. What's like the equivalent for men?
I can get down with a good, massage and a manicure. Like, I'm not going to lie, but that's probably not most men. Maybe a good football game with a beer. I can go that way too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So whatever it is where it makes you feel the most posh, I always say, if you want to feel that way in photography and video, Studio 88 will make you feel that way. And that's something I have always loved about you. I say, like, my best photos, my best photo shoots, my best video shoots always are at Studio 88. You can tell without a doubt, like, you guys have this, you must have set presets. Like, honestly, all the photos look the same. Like, you can tell that they're just as incredible. And I always feel my best. And so we actually had you guys come out this year. Yeah. Our team did our company retreat in Disneyland, and you guys were so nice to accommodate, because that's where I flew my whole team in. We're all virtual, and we actually did a photo shoot in our hotel. Like, I kid you not, the things Studio 88 can do and make look incredible is off the charts. We went over to an office and they were so kind and accommodating for us. And then we came back and they actually interviewed me. And I was so nervous about this interview. And I do this for a living. And I've worked with you guys before. I've gone through your brand pieces, and I love that through your brand exercise, it's actually not hard. You just answer questions that are very simple. And then you guys, Studio 88, like, delivers what I have inside of me that I don't know how to explain in a creative, artistic way, which I think is beyond magic that you were able to do. But to the interview and the video part, they did just ask me questions, and I just riffed. And I riffed for quite some time. And they're so nice. I love people on the other side of the camera that are giving like the head nod, like very intentional. They're so good at it. They're so nice. Like, that's something I think you guys do incredibly well. And I saw the final product. It was interesting. I was out for a little while this year, and I came back and I saw this final product. I didn't even know it was on the website, and I happened to be looking at our website, and it was so incredible to see my story and my life. You guys were able to parse it together. I get super emotional about it because you don't realize that it's in you. You don't realize that that's a part of you. And I think you guys are just like, that's why I love Josh. I think you just see people for who they really are, and you bring that to light in a way that's so safe and so accommodating and so just special, I think, is probably the best way. I feel like the way you present our photography and the way you present our websites and the way you present brands and the way you present video, is you take someone who doesn't know how to express themselves. Like so many of us feel like we're alone or people don't get it. Like I was just watching Survivor last night and every single person on the show was saying like, you just feel so alone. You feel like people don't get you. You feel like you've been an outcast your whole life, or you feel like, you know, why am I the one doing this? And I'm like, every single freaking person on this planet feels that way. And yet working with you guys, you just, it's like, it's almost like the way I'm envisioning it is almost like you pull out this like little green sprig of life that I didn't even know was a part of me. And I feel like I'm pretty confident. I know who I am and like I can tell my story, but it's just magic how you pull that together. So doctors or teams or any company worried about it, one, you guys are just so good at it. But like I said, I feel like you're able to take who we are and create masterpieces that we didn't even know were a part of us. And you're welcome to use that as like a testimonial. Because honestly, I didn't intend to any of this.
Like, this is amazing. I'm just going to keep letting you talk. I don't even,
but it really is. It's just like the little glitter moments that you don't realize are a part of you is what I think you guys bring, which is probably why I rep your swag all the time. Like, cause I think it's just magical of what you're able to create for people. And again, like, I've done how many sessions with you guys? Like Josh, you and I have gone through so many rounds of my brand and my life and my story. And I feel like you guys know me, but you weren't even there this time. It was your team and they were able to bring this out of me. And I just watched it and I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I want dentists to feel. That's exactly how I want people to feel. That is my life. That's why I freaking built this company, to serve people on that level. And I just think mad kudos to you. And yeah, it's a testimony that I didn't mean on a podcast, but I just think it is magic to watch you guys like spring to life stories that people don't even realize. So if you're questioning, like, I don't even feel like I've got a story, you probably have this story. You just don't know how to put the pieces together. And if you don't think about it and you just interview, you guys are very creative and talented at pulling it all together.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I mean, and I know it's obviously very heartfelt. David was out with you guys recently, and he's one of our full-time photographers. He just is on the West Coast. He used to actually live here in Columbus, and that's how we got to meet him. He came to me and said, "Hey, I want to move to LA," and I was like, "Fine, just handle everything, you know, like west of the Rockies." And so he's an amazing guy, and I'll tell you, part of our process is like with those content creators, the talent has to be there for sure, but what a lot of people don't realize is the missing piece is the human component, like it is in anything, but they have to be able to, I mean, we go through training on like interview skills. We go through training on, you know, walking into a room of like a dental practice and you got, you know, 6 to 8 females there and they've got some anxiety about what's happening. And they were just told 24 hours before that they're going to have their photos taken. And you got to be able to go in and like manage a room and manage people. I mean, we train on posing because you can't just like put people together and expect a great team photo either. There's a lot of like science and intentionality that goes around that. And so we've worked really hard on that stuff. But like, you're right. I mean, we had a client recently, and what I loved what she said was we delivered the photography and video, and she, I think she was texting Joanna and I, and she just said, "This is who I thought I was, but I wasn't sure. And when your stuff came back, it was like that person I thought I was, like I am that person, you know?" And she saw that on the other side. It's almost like you get to see how the world sees you. And I think so much of it is like, we're just in it day to day, and like having a grip on that story and even like your impact on the world on the day to day is so hard, man. I mean, because we just like, we get up, we see like the starts and the stops. We see the times we just like failed or said something we shouldn't have and had to go back and fix it. We see we're dealing with a client that's not working well, or a patient, or a team member's attitude. And every day can just be like that. And you get to the end of it and you're like, I don't know, man, I feel like I'm surviving. I feel like I'm trying to build something, but it's just like we're going against gravity, just trying to make it happen. And when somebody else comes along and they almost step back and get this 30,000 foot view. It's almost like the movie screen view. Like they force you to almost like sit up towards the back of the movie theater and zoom out on your life. And now you're seeing it play in this like feature film. And yeah, you have these moments where you're like, this is amazing. Like, this is worth it. This is actually beautiful. Like, it's actually moving me. And that's an amazing thing to be able to do. And I think going back, I think we all have that in us. It just takes somebody to come along and go, no, this practice you're building, like the world needs this. Like, this is beautiful. And I love like when I get to talk to entrepreneurs and CEOs and dental owners, because I'm like, you guys are actively like, here's what you don't realize. You're actively participating in creation. Like you're building something that did not exist there before. So like that's this amazing thing. And you're doing it for the better of the world. Like what better story? Let's just take that. What better story is there out there than that? It's just not. So entrepreneurs, I'm like, yeah, like this is what you're doing. So of course you have moments when you're tired. Of course you feel exhausted. Of course you feel drained. You're like putting your energy out there to actually create something that has never existed before for the better of humanity. Like it's going to drain you. It's going to zap you. Day to day, you're going to be like, there's nothing special happening here. And so having somebody come along and go, but there is, and here's what we see is so powerful.
Mm-hmm. And as you were saying that, I couldn't help but think about, there's this company called Storyworth, like not a plug for them whatsoever. I just happened to, my husband's parents are quite a bit older. Yeah. And my parents are like, my husband and I are both very fortunate that both of our parents are still alive. And I decided this year I was going to have maybe make like a little competition between his parents and mine, just as my thought of how I could get these stories done. Yeah. But I'm having his parents and my parents write stories every single week, and we're going to compile it and put together books for all of my siblings, all of my husband's siblings. And I know like the grandchildren and everybody just kind of wants these stories. And it's interesting because his parents and my parents both were like, I don't want to write these stories. There's really nothing to say because I think we minimize like our stories and our lives. And we're like, but I'm not Walt Disney, or I'm not Gandhi, or I'm not Mother Teresa. But we don't realize that 99% of the population is not them. We're all just like average day people. But those average day people are the people that impact and change. And so like for my in-laws, them writing their story, no, this isn't going to be like a bestseller. I'm not going to go put it out there. But it's not meant to be. It's meant to serve our family and the people that are connected to my in-laws and to my parents. Just like in your practice, your story and your practice and why you even built this is not meant to be for every single patient in the United States or across the globe. It's meant to be in your niche of the people that you're meant to serve and that you're there to serve. And so I really just love that you said, like, you bring it to the forefront. And it's been really fun to watch my in-laws and my parents this year see that they actually do have a story. And again, it's through prompts, like you said, it's like very simple things that they didn't even realize. But it's been so magical to learn about them in an easy way. And that's, I think, what you guys do really well. And so,
I did the same thing with my mom. The whole same, Storyworth, Joanna did with her mom and for Mother's Day, and I did it for my mom. And it's like she's not as consistent as I would like her to be with them. But
the competition, Josh, I got both parents going against each other, and it's great. They've all done it. We're consistent.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But it's like every now and then, and because she's just up earlier than me, like I get up and I get my email and it sends them to me. Mm-hmm. And so I get this, and a couple times I've been like, oh, I'm so busy, my email box is full. But I force myself to stop and I read it, and sometimes I'm just like, this is fascinating. Like. Mm-hmm. Even thinking about like what she came out of and how she raised us. And you're right. Then when they all get kind of stitched together, it's going to create this like, amazing story. I was at the ODA 2 weeks ago, the Ohio Dental Association. And I was walking the trade show floor. We usually actually don't support it, but there were some speakers there and we did a reception and all that. So we had a team on the floor, and I'm walking, and I just know a lot of people. So it's just like you're stopping every so often. But notice this new marketing company on the floor, and I forget what their name was, but their display was kind of modern and minimal, and I was like, oh, okay, like it kind of caught my eye. All the guys had like the Nike Dunk Pandas on, which is what my team wears at conferences, and so immediately I get into this like, dude, they're knocking us off, like they're stealing our shoes, like we wear these shoes. So I was like, I'm gonna go have some fun with them. So I just walked up, I said, hey man, I like the kicks, and he was like, oh, thanks. I said, yeah. I said, my team wears those at conferences. We've been doing that for a little while now. And he's like, your team? I was like, yeah. I said, we're just over a couple rows. I said, Studio EightyEight. And he's like, Studio EightyEight? And I'm like, yeah, I'm Josh. And I was like, Gavin, I read his name tag, like, nice to meet you. And he goes, you're Josh with Studio EightyEight? I'm like, at this point, like, yeah. And so a couple of his team members come over, and he was like, dude, he tells his team members, he's like, guys, we've learned everything we know from this guy and their company. And I'm like, great. Because I get agencies that come up to us and they're like, dude, we follow your stuff. We're building an agency. We're doing the exact same thing. I'm like, amazing.
Thank you. Thank
Copy
you.
our stuff and build another business. So that's a whole nother conversation. But he goes, he's like, you were the first one to bring custom photography and video into dental. And I was like, bro, I don't know about that. I'm sure people did custom photography before that. And he was like, no, but he goes, you were the original like disruptor of that whole thing. And I was like, we were probably the first one to create a business model around it and be able to take it nationwide in a way that was like profitable and that served the profession. So I was like, yeah, but it was like that. So he's repeating the storyline back, and it was very like kind of, I don't know, it was like sincere and it was cool. It was like this, interaction. But I was like, I've never thought of myself like that. But when somebody says it, and then you're kind of like, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm a disruptor. Who knows? But
Yeah.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I think like, as you were saying that, I think so many of us don't realize how impactful what we're doing is. I was just reading an article this morning, and they said, what's the most impactful book you've ever read? And they said Shoe Dog. And Shoe Dog came up at another conference and another conference. And that's literally just a story about Nike. And I guarantee you that person, when they're, and I don't know their name, like I have not read it. It's on my queue because I saw it again of like reading the most impactful book. But I just think most of the things that impact us the most are people's stories. The things that we remember are people's stories, the things like, and even if it's a small thing and it's not some person like Walt Disney or Gandhi or Nike, so many of those stories just need to be told. And I think we're in a day and age, like you look at social media, like people watch videos because it's telling stories and they're entertaining and it's fun for us. And yet if I go on Jason's social versus mine, we have two very different algorithms. Like Jason has a little bit of dark humor on there. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you watch this? Like I'm laughing, but I feel like a little embarrassed that I'm laughing at it. Like Jason and he just thinks it's hilarious. Whereas he comes on mine and it's like all Taylor Swift. So like very different algorithms, but yet people are building content for different people. And so that's the whole point of like these practices. Like you're not meant to serve every person. You're meant to serve the people that you were like truly destined to serve. And I think that's what I love about dentistry is the lives that we get to change and the magic we get to create. Like you create that magic for these owners of being able to see like their work come to life, like you said, the masterpiece, while dentists are being able to create those smiles for all these patients and let their life become a masterpiece as well. So I just think it's lovely. I really do. And I think we downplay how incredible we are. And I think I'm here to propose, like, there might be a better way, obviously not in the egotistical way, but in the way of like, I did do some good things and I did take some hard risks and I did it because I want to serve these people.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like we should be sharing that more. And obviously people know my mission is to positively impact the world of dental. And I'm like, the way you do that is by showing up as you. And you do that by doing these things day in and day out. So I think it's a lovely thing that you guys do. And I would say if you haven't gone through the brand exercise or had your photography or had the videos, like try it because like you said, I think you get to zoom out from someone else's perspective and see your life and not in an egotistical way, just in a like, dang, like I have done a few things in this world. And I think it makes the suck days of success not as hard. Because you're like, wow, there has been something that's been made. So mad kudos. Sure. Again, this wasn't the intent of the podcast. It just naturally came. Probably because I put the sweatshirt on. I feel more in Studio 88 mode.
Well, you look, I think here's kind of one of my recent theses because I was reworking a keynote recently and for next year. And I was like, if marketing is all just about data and KPIs and analytics and all this stuff, we just end up with this kind of like empty thing of just literally trying to drive traffic to get this, knowing like, okay, for every 1,000 people, we convert at like 2%. So like, well, let's get 10,000 people then and 100,000 people. And we're driving traffic for the sake of this like minimal possible conversion. And I think just in our world, and it's going to have to be like this as we move forward, people need to feel something. And that's the side of marketing we don't talk a lot about. And I'm actually very empathetic to it because on one side, we've got ROI and KPIs and data, and we can prove something's working. And to be honest, it's easier to throw a couple $1,000s at Google and end up with new patients in the chair than it is to go, how do I build a brand? Because that's so subjective and it feels like it's all like feeling and things and the way photography makes people feel and the way they connected with this video and the user experience on the website, like how many clicks do they have to go? It's all that very subjective, like subtle stuff. And building a brand is hard. Like there's not a lot of checkpoints along the way. Like, am I doing a good job? You know, our son recently left for college about 6 weeks ago. He went to University of Cincinnati, which is about 2 hours away. So he's not so far, but I remember that whole thing of, okay, as soon as he decides he's going to Cincinnati, it starts this clock. Like, as a parent, you're just like on the clock. It's like there's, okay, 45 days till he's gone, and it starts shrinking. And what I probably wasn't prepared for is it really smacks you in the face with this one major question, which is, did we do enough? Because now the time is, it almost is like the time is shrinking. You've got 45 days left. Did you do enough the last 18 years? Because now he's leaving. And it's a tough question. Like, were we enough? And especially on Joanna's side, it was very, there's a lot of emotion to it. Like, I got 45 days. I have these 12 conversations I need to have with him. But you're also like, but I can't shove them in that time either. You just have to trust. And I go back to like, okay, so how would I know that I was a good parent? There's no data. There's no KPIs. There's no like ROI on this along the way. But I remember things like, there was this moment like when he was 8 and I watched him interact with some adults and he used some manners. And you're like, okay, like actually can't believe he learned that, I remember his very last volleyball game as a varsity in high school. They went to the regional finals and they ended up losing. And so it was like this emotional night, but one of the dads came up to us and said, hey, I just need to tell you, like, Caden's been a great leader on this team. His son was a freshman. And he said, they were very intentional about, this is not just the seniors team. This is all their team, and taking what they learned and pouring it into the freshmen. And he said, you may or may not hear that all the time, but he said, your son is not only a great leader, but he's a great man. And my son just looks up to him so much. And it's moments like those where you're like, okay, I might have done enough,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in building a brand is a lot like that. It's hard to get your hands around. And so I think that's sometimes why we skew the other way of just give me data. Let me throw money at it. Give me data, give me KPIs. And then it's either it's working or it's not working. And we move on to the next thing. Where building a brand is like, it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. It's a lifetime. But it's harder.
Yeah. And I think it's important for doctors to realize, and teams, that what you're building is a legacy for as long as you're doing it for. It doesn't have to be a lifetime forever. But you are building a brand, and you are a brand, and what you're doing is changing lives. And so recognizing that, and I think like not to add so much weight to it that it feels daunting, but to add enough weight where you realize like what you're doing is important, and what you're creating in those patients. Like, I don't think I was on a podcast earlier and I said, in dentistry, we're not heart surgeons, but we are smile surgeons, and giving that confidence to our patients. I think that we undermine possibly the incredible work that we're doing for society, and the confidence we're able to give all these patients is something that I do think is worthwhile. And like, the patients need to find out, they need to find you, because otherwise they're going to go to someone else. And not to say another dentist isn't as good, but I guarantee you the doctors that are listening to this podcast and the ones that are working with companies like Studio 88, you're the ones that I would want my patients to go to and my family to go to. And so it's like, when we're in a world where anybody can be found, we need to have our best doctors standing out. And I believe that that's our moral obligation, to serve patients at the highest level. Just like I believe the best doctors need to be out there and the best surgeons need to be out there, because like, we only have one set of teeth. And so if you can help save more teeth and more smiles, I think it's a no-brainer that you need to have your brand and your business very, very readily available. So Josh, I just love this podcast. I feel all the feels. I feel like so many doctors just need to share their stories. And so if people are interested, how do they work with Studio 88? How do they connect with you? Like I said, you guys, I have gone through, I think, everything Studio 88 does. I've done their brand. I've done their photography. I've done their websites. Like, it's an incredible experience, and it's very easy. So how can people even just like dip their toe into this if they're interested?
Yeah, for sure. Couple best ways to reach out. Number one, I'm on Instagram at Joshua Scott. So I'm still in my accounts and DMs. So just send me a message if you heard this podcast. Just even say, hey, heard the Dental 18 podcast. You'll get a response from me. Ask me anything. I mean, I'm more or less, I'm like, hey, I'll offer you advice all day long. I'll take a look at your stuff and just give you my professional opinion on it. And then if you want to reach out to Studio 88 or get specifics there, it's go to the website, sae8.com. Letter S, number 8, letter E, number 8.com. And there's a bunch of buttons there you can submit to get in touch with somebody, and they can walk you through our packages and what we do and see if it's potentially a good fit for you.
I love it. I would say, if nothing else, just make sure that you're sharing your story like the little story worths of our parents, because that's so important for people to see you. And you don't have to be the video. You don't have to be all the different things. You do it on your level and your terms of what you are. But I do believe the world needs you. Patients need you. So in the most loving way, don't be selfish and like hide yourself away. Share yourself, because this world needs you. Josh, thanks for being on the podcast today. It was such a good time with you.
Of course, I always enjoy it and appreciate. Yeah, none of this was scripted, which is a ton of fun. You just kind of get on, and when you can talk to a friend, and it just goes wherever. It's always a lot of fun.
It's a good time. And for all of you listening, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time on the Dental Team Podcast.